conversation. It is a pleasure to have you all here, and whether you are joining us via Zoom or on the YouTube Live. The Digital Shift series is our way of shining a light on the issues that matter most to Africa's future. Today's topic is one that affects all of us, educators, employers, policymakers, and especially our youth. And so the theme for today, which focuses on the future of work, reimagining digital skills for the Nigerian youth, is apt. It's like saying it's the vibe of the moment wherein our youths need to skill up and get to learn hands-on experiences on the conversations that we're going to have today. So we're here to unpack how we can turn digital training into real job opportunities and what it truly takes to build an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable workforce pipeline for Nigeria. And of course, when we're talking about Nigeria, we're also looking at the future of Africa because Nigeria stands out as the backbone of Africa. So we may have some Africans joining us. Just focus and view this from the perspective of Nigeria to the world, reaching out to the world. So we'll begin with a short keynote presentation to set the tone, then move into a powerful panel conversation with speakers who are actively shaping talent development across the country. But before we begin, allow me to introduce our speakers. Each of these speakers brings a unique and practical perspective to this conversation, and we're going to start with our very own Ivy Ikpeme Mbakwem, with speakers who are actively shaping talent development across the country. But before we begin, allow me to introduce our speakers. Each of these speakers brings a unique and practical perspective to this conversation, and we're going to start with our very own Ivy Ikpeme Mbakwem, with speakers who are actively shaping talent development across the country. But before we begin, allow me to introduce our speakers. Each of these speakers brings a unique and practical perspective to this conversation, and we're going to start with our very own Ivy Ikpeme Mbakwem, with speakers who are actively shaping talent development across the country. But before we begin, allow me to introduce us. Hello, sorry. Did you hear that feedback?
Yes, we did, but it stops now.
Okay, so apologies for that technical glitch. So we'll go back to the introduction of our panelists, and I'll start with our very own Ivy Ikpeme. Ivy is the Vice President of iAcademy at Hess Technologies, with over 20 years of experience leading strategic workforce transformation across telecoms, banking, capital markets, and technology. She's a certified leadership, and I'll start with our very own Ivy Ikpeme, transformation expert, known for building customer experience teams, contact centers, and capacity development programs across Africa. Ivy currently leads iAcademy's mission to equip talent with future-ready digital skills that meet industry needs. That is Ivy for you. And next is Blessing Abang. Blessing is a branding and communications professional, tech founder, and Forbes 30 under 30 honoree. She is the co-founder of Ingressive for Growth, I4G, a leading African non-profit dedicated to empowering young tech talent through training to employment pipelines. Under her leadership, I4G has supported over 130,000 young Africans and placed thousands in jobs. She also co-founded a tech startup that was later acquired by a unicorn and has built strong employer networks across the continent, making her a key voice in talent development and hiring strategy. Next panelist is Ourelula Shamola. Ourelula is the founder and executive director of the Women's Technology Empowerment Center, WTech, an organization committed to building a more inclusive technology ecosystem with the next generation of women technology creators, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Ourelula has a bachelor's degree in economics from Essex University, UK, a master's degree in analysis, design, and management of information systems from the London School of Economics and Political Science. And she also has a certificate in applied sciences from Harvard University's Extension School. She's a Women Leaders for the World Fellow, Vital Voices Lead Fellow, a Shocker Fellow, and a recipient of the Anita Berg Change Agent Award. That is Ourelula Shamola Leshi. And next is a very young man, Damola Ajibay. Damola Ajibay is a partnership analyst at Hess Technologies, where he works with global OEMs and partners to support enterprise technology projects. With experience in sales, operations, and IT consulting, he brings a practical approach to driving business outcomes. He previously interned as a software engineer at iAcademy, Africa Prudential, and was part of the team that won the Academy's inaugural hackathon. He holds a degree from the Federal University of Technology, Mina, and is passionate about digital transformation and youth development. We welcome this awesome array of panelists that we have, and we're going to step in right into the business of the day as we invite our keynote speaker, as I'll call the person, for the keynote presentation, our very own Ivy. She's going to set the tone for today's conversation as she steps us to give us the keynote address or the opening remarks, as we'll call it. Over to you, Ivy. Ivy, it's your time. All right, while Ivy is getting set, we're reminding you that this is the future of work. The future of work is now, and we're building digital talent for Nigeria's next decade. And we have Ivy, who is going to give us the opening remarks and presentation to set the tone for this morning's conversation. Ivy, over to you.
You, Omede, please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So, Omede, thank you for that lovely, introduction. And I also want to say thank you to my amazing speakers, and also to the audience who are on the call right now. So the future of work is now, right? And we as Nigerians have to actually begin to build digital talent for the next decade. So I'm just going to go straight into the presentation. But before I talk about that, what I want to talk about is Hess Technologies, who's actually bringing this particular conversation to you, right? So Hess Technologies is a technology organization, right? And we deliver end-to-end digital transformation services that drive resilience, innovation across industries, across businesses. Our core services, our core service categories are structured to meet business and enterprise needs at every stage of their transformational journey. So you ask yourself, what stage in my transformational journey am I in right now? we are the ones you should come to for, to provide you advisory and also the support. So our service offerings are in business transformation and IT consulting, cloud services, networks and monitoring, software licensing and renewals. We're also into data and AI. We're into cybersecurity. We're into product innovation, also talent managed outsourcing. It's really important that you reach out to us after the end of this session, and I'm displaying on the screen right now, so that you can actually see our suite of offerings that could actually help to move your business from where you are right now to the next level. So let's get into the gist of the work of the future of work. There's this amazing book by Jacob Morgan, right? And one of the quotes that he had in his book was, this means this means knowledge and experience are no longer the primary commodity. Instead, what is far more valuable is to have the ability to learn and to apply those learnings into the new and unique scenarios. It's no longer about what you know, it's about how you can learn and adapt. So everyone actually needs to learn and adapt in the world today because technology is changing really fast. So what digital skills are there as a nation building? What do we need to do as a nation to build the digital skills? The skills are needed, indeed, the starting point and the foundation. We have a large, base of knowledge so we have a large youth base in Nigeria, and that youth base needs the digital skills. And that is one of the reasons why technology, organizations and academies are actually trying to put this training into our youth, because that's the foundation. The digital economy is the new frontier. So we have to be there and positioned to be there. Skills are not just technical anymore, they're transformational. So you're not just building just for the purpose of providing a solution. You also want to build solutions that actually transform, wherever the community and also businesses. So our goal is actually to build a pipeline of digitally empowered youths who power Nigeria's next decade. That's what we're looking at, building that. So for nation building, the real shift happens when there is a clear path from training and certification to job placement. So it's not just about training anymore. We want these youths who are trained to actually get jobs, get placed in jobs to begin to build capacity. Now, people keep on saying that there's a future here. But yes, the future is already here. There's technology transformation. You have AI, machine learning. They're all revolutionizing our businesses right now, the business processes, right? You have automation, replacing routine tasks, everyday routine tasks with automation. You have cloud computing enabling global collaborations all across. You also have cybersecurity becoming more mission critical now because of all, you're hearing about, the hackers and malware. Everyone is looking at this transformation in their business. We also look at the work evolution as well, right? I mean, ever since, we had COVID and we went past COVID, there's a lot of talk now about hybrid or working fully remote. These are models that now people have changed their business work models to integrate, hybrid and remote work. You also have the gig economy. You have people who are, just freelancers and getting opportunities in the tech space to provide their services to businesses all across the world. You also have complete remote teams across borders. And I'd like to speak a little bit here, so you can see Nigeria is a space where the youth are like over 53%, of our population. And not everybody can migrate out of Nigeria. But we have the skills. Imagine how if we train all these skills, we can have remote teams servicing international organizations across the world, right? And that's how we build our economy. That's how we build our youth. That's how we build our digital, transformation in our country. They also have the growing demand for adaptable, tech-savvy, value-driven talent as well. So it's not just about being tech. What value are you providing as a talent to the business? So we're going to talk about, moving from skill shortage to opportunity crisis. Nigeria faces a critical challenge right now that requires immediate attention, and that's the truth. While global demand for tech talent continues to surge, we're not fully capitalizing that. Honestly, we're not. We're here, we have the youth base, but they're very underemployed. And some of them even unemployed as well. Meanwhile, the global tech market is already $100 billion, and yet we're not tapping into this. So the gap between talent and industry-relevant digital training creates a massive opportunity crisis. How do we tap into this when we have the human capital? We're not tapping into it. We need the right development pathways to be able to tap into this global tech market. So for our academy, which is the training center for health technologies, it's good to also share some of our measurable impacts throughout the years. In 2023, we actually trained 27 graduates in Java, React, and .NET. We also in 2024 expanded our training to include networks and IT operations because we saw the move and the shift in the emerging markets. And then in 2025, we trained 100 graduates in cloud and also in cloud and cybersecurity, right? Because we wanted to target high demand specializations for maximum impact. The key achievement for us has always been to, increase the female participation. In 2023, there were 29% of female representation, but as of today, right, we have 42% representation of females in our, training, and we've reached 26 states across Nigeria. So what we want to do is actually to place. Yes, we've actually begun to place, some of our graduates, but we need more placement. And it's not just Health Technologies Academy that needs to place their graduates. You have several technology, academies that are looking to place their talents in different places. That means that we can't do it alone. The ecosystem is huge, and there are different players. We need the private sector, we need the government to partner, we need ecosystem players, to also, put in their hands, into this ecosystem and say, how can we place these graduates? How can we give them opportunities to not just grow capacity, but also to be exposed, to the opportunities, to the growth opportunities that we have here in Nigeria? I think that's exactly where I am. So that's my call to action. That all our tech, members in the tech economy. How do you want to play this part? How do you want to play the part in developing the youth in our country and also just giving them the opportunities to actually grow their skills? Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Ivy. Thank you so much. And that was Ivy setting the tone for today's conversation, our very own Vice President at the I Academy, Health Technologies. She's equipping talent with future-ready skills that meet industry needs. And she has actually demonstrated that by setting this very wonderful tone. And she said something sausage. She said, the future is already here. And because the future is here, that is the reason why we have gathered together this intelligent, innovative, creative, digitally savvy group of panelists ready to break down and unpack, the ready tools and ready skills and the way forward for the future of work in Nigeria and translating it to Africa and beyond. And so we'll start with the Q&A, but before we go into the Q&A, let me quickly set some housekeeping, just run through some housekeeping. And so if you look below the Zoom screen, you are going to see a Q&A section. And so you go to the Q&A section to ask a question. Kindly type into the Q&A section and type your question. So as the conversation is ongoing, questions may come to your mind, so you don't lose the trend. Just go to the Q&A section and ask your question. And in asking the question, you just state your name, where you're typing from, not speaking from, and then ask the question. And so we'll go straight into the question, the panel conversation. And I'm going to ask our first panelist. She's the key voice in talent development and hiring strategy. That is Blessing Abang. What do Nigerian employers actually want in your young tech talent? And where are the biggest skill gaps you see today? I'll take that again. What do Nigerian employers actually want in young tech talent? And where are the biggest skill gaps you see today? Blessing.
Thank you so much, Omedi. And that was such a lovely speech, Ivy. Such a strong call to action. And I really hope that a lot of us take something away and decide to take an action based on this admonition you have given us. So what do companies want? I think companies want different things depending on the type of company, but there are some things that are expected from anybody that is being hired. One of the first things that we noticed, which is true universally, is that if a company is hiring, it means that there is a gap within the organization and they need that gap filled. And it could look different for different tech talents because within the tech talent space, we have both non-tech talents and tech talents. And every organization is always going to need a mix of both because they're not just going to operate with people who are coding, people who are doing data reports and all of that. Somebody needs to be able to probably interpret that data. Sometimes they would need media support, things like that. And knowing what your skills are very important. I do understand, like Ivy said, that the unemployment and underemployment levels are really high. So we find sometimes that people apply to opportunities that they are not directly qualified for. And this is not to say that if you have adjacent skills, you shouldn't apply for opportunities, but really ask yourself, what is the value that I am bringing to this company? In what ways can I use and leverage my skills to add value to this company? How can I help them solve their problems? You also need to remember that even if you're looking for a job, it doesn't mean you're a beggar. You are not a beggar. You have value that you bring to the table. You have skills that you bring to the table, and you need to be able to demonstrate that when an employer should ask you. Your interview process, in many occasions, people are thinking, I'm being interviewed, so therefore, I need to be at my best behavior. But we forget under the tension that you're also supposed to be interviewing the organization that is trying to hire you. So in those moments where they are asking you questions, you can also ask questions to better understand what kind of company is this? And what does success look like for them in this role? And as I said, do your research, just really think about what is it that I bring to the table and what is my unique perspective. A lot of companies are looking for your unique perspective. With the advent of AI, I've been having conversations where I tell people that what it means to be entry level is shifting. It's no longer okay to be entry level and just do repetitive tasks because people are going to leverage AI in different forms, use tools and agents within the AI space to do the very repetitive tasks. And so what it means to be an entry level person will shift. The only and the core difference that would keep evolving is your unique perspective. And companies want you to bring that unique perspective that you've gained from your experience, from your life interactions, all of that to the table, because that is something someone else will not be able to bring to the table. That is your unique selling point. What are some gaps that I've noticed? I think communication gap and the ability to take initiative sometimes is one of the things that we've heard a lot of employers complain about. So it's great that you have the skill. It's lovely that you can code and you can report data and you can do cybersecurity and all of that. but do you know how to problem solve? Can you spot problems when the problems exist? Even before the problems come up, are you taking initiative to say, oh, I noticed XYZ, so this is a solution I think might be really helpful to help us solve it? Those are things that would be really useful. Also, working in a team, do you know how to communicate with your superiors? Do you know how to communicate with your colleagues? And do you know how to communicate to the people that are working under you? Do you even know how to communicate with yourself to get yourself working and doing the things that you need to do? These are very useful skills. And during the period we were having at Ingressive for Good, one of the things that we noticed was soft skills, and we started to work with partners to help improve our talents, because yes, the hard skills are great, but the soft skills are the things that make the difference. So in any opportunity that you get to be able to improve on your soft skills, your leadership skills, your managerial skills, your ability to work as a team, to take initiatives, spot problems, jump on it. And I will leave you with this word. A lot of times we're working in a space, or we're in a space, and then the light bulb goes off. Most people would sit down and complain about that light bulb, but they wouldn't do anything about it. And in this case, this light bulb is metaphorical. Are you the type of person who stands up and says, that light bulb is not working, let me do something about it? Leadership is not just about positions. You're sometimes not going to get the position. In fact, you might be the final person at the bottom of the pyramid within the organization structure, but you can lead from wherever spot that you are. You can do big things from small places, and you can truly make a difference. So always ask yourself, what is the thing that I bring to the table? How can I add value here? And can I lead even without a position? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Blessing. It's like this is like a bazooka or some missile. She's fully loaded. Her arsenal is fully loaded, and she's ready to, unpack. She has said so much. She has said a lot, and for the sake of time, I wouldn't want to run over what she has already said. But one key thing you need to take from what she has said is that you bring value to a company. I need to identify that value. What is your unique perspective? And then your communication and an ability to take initiative. They are key beyond the AI skills. I'll move over to our Vice President Ivy. From your work at the AI Academy, what digital skills are most in demand right now? And how can we make sure every young person, not just the privileged, every young person can access them? I'll take that again. What digital skills are the most in demand right now based on your experience at the AI Academy? And how can we make sure every young person, not just the privileged, can access them? Ivy.
Okay, thank you, Amanda, for that question. So I'm going to start with the second half of your question, which is how can we ensure that the youth can actually access the trainings and not just the privileged youth. So the very first thing that we must understand is that there are trainings everywhere. You go on every platform, use this YouTube, right? Trainings on how to code is just there. You have the likes of Udemy as well, just offering trainings at affordable prices, to the youths. But you also have those youths. So anyone who has a little bit of amount of money can actually access those trainings and pay for it. You can also go to YouTube, depending on what you want to learn, right? There's information out there's information overload. But what is very important if you want to train in technology is to have a structured, guided, directed training. And what Health Technology is doing, with training for free is I think is a way, it's one of the ways that organizations can actually get into that space and provide those trainings to the youths, in whatever underserved area. So that's one way that they can access the trainings. Another one is partnerships, right? So, like I mentioned in my keynote, that we can't do it alone, and we don't have enough tech organizations, or tech academies training. So there is a need for partnership because it's really expensive, to get these tech trainings. Some of them are costing dollars, and that's really high. So there is a need for organizations to partner, right, with different, bodies. For example, we could partner with OEMs, right? These are original equipment manufacturers of certain softwares, like Oracle, or like IBM, like Huawei, Microsoft. And they're playing big here in Nigeria. And so we also need to call them, to say, how can you partner with us to provide free trainings, to the underserved in different parts of our country, right? I think that's the other way that we can access, that this youth can access our trainings. Now, in moving or shifting to the first part of your question, which is, what are the skills in demand right now? I would say that because we in health technologies, we've been focusing on the trends and the needs in the tech space today. One of the things that we identified is cloud and cybersecurity. Those are two very critical skills or critical digital skills that the youth need to actually come into. That's why we trained 100 people, this year. Because if you've been looking at the news, right, MTN I think 2 weeks ago, they announced their cloud business, right? So they've gone to the cloud because they know that everyone need to be on the cloud right now, right? Move your business from on-prem to the cloud. So MTN has cashed into that business. And as they do that, they would require, support. So youth who get these trainings can now become level 1 support, right? So you're providing the foundational support, on those cloud platforms. Then we also heard Kenya. Kenya also shared, and said, that they were lacking in cybersecurity experts here in Africa, right? So you can imagine, and we trained 50, cybersecurity youths, so that's another in-demand skill. Why? Because as long as you're on the internet, there you are open to cybercrime. There's, the hackers all over. You have the banks always, every single second, they're trying to ensure that there's no vulnerability, on their systems, right? Why? Because of all the hackers. So what does that tell you? That there's an in-demand, for cybersecurity skills as well. And you cannot just get those skills in one day. You need to start with the foundational learning and then grow over time, right? Another very key skill is AI. So we sat down when the ChatGPT came in, was kind of like introduced in 2020, 21, 22, right? And we all jumped on that bandwagon. But it didn't just come out like that. People have been building for years. They have been gathering information for years and data for years, right? And so now here we are using it. So AI, and now there's different, AIs for different, for different reasons, for different solutions, for different problems that we're facing in the business space, in the personal space, so this AI skill is very important. And then the fourth digital skill that I think is really in demand right now is animation. Animation is a huge industry, and in Nigeria right now, we don't have, a lot of people who are, coming up with animations, for the movie industry, right? The movie industry, yes. We don't have a lot of animators who are telling us those stories, right? So that's another space that we really need the youth to go in and tap into. So I mentioned 4, that's the cloud, cybersecurity, AI, and animation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Thank you so, so much for that quick summary you did at the end. So you have saved me a lot. I'll go to Damola. Damola, the man that is passionate about digital transformation and youth empowerment. And so, as someone who has recently transitioned from training to working in tech, what surprised you the most about the reality of the job market? After transitioning from training in tech, you now moved into the real job market. What reality hit you? What kind of cultural shock did you experience in terms of the reality of the job market from training to the job market? Oyedamola.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Omede, and thanks for Ivy. Nice speech, and for blessing. Thank you for that. So, what I noticed that surprised me the most about the reality of the job market was that everything was actually very fast. Everything was fast, everything, and you just have to evolve fast because what you learned maybe last week, or let me say last month, just to be safer, may not necessarily be a year. What will be needed as you are looking for the job. And I also realized that in as much as the certifications are great, they are not enough for the reality of the job market because you need to be able to deliver value, apply those skills, and solve real business problems. Because over time, there have always been this: you have to be certified in this, you need to learn this, you need to learn that. But I think there was that's been like an half truth in that. How does these things help the applicants solve real life problems? Okay, how do they think from the business point of view? How do they think value? Not just get the certification, not just be certified in different level of certifications, but how do they add value? So that was one of the biggest surprises I faced, and the ability to also adapt. Adaptability was also another thing because it's quite different from while you are training and on the job, what is required on the job. And another shock I experienced was the number, let me say, experience, the requirements needed for you to even land an opportunity. For somebody who just finished training, you start seeing everywhere. You need 2, 3 years experience as a junior assistant, as a junior analyst, the junior developer, everything. So that was another shocker I saw in the reality of the job market. But what I would just advise, especially for those who are listening, the young people like me, is that always see the business side of whatever you are learning. Oh, I'm learning how to develop. How does my development key into the kind of a company, into the kind of organization I'm looking for? Because I believe everybody who is learning one thing or the other, they have a focus. Oh, if I'm learning this, I would like to practice it here. I would like to experiment it here. I would like to use it here. So I think that's also that was also a reality that dawned on me while I was searching for all this. But thanks to S Technologies that gave me that platform. So I must also say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oyedamola. I love your sincerity. And I'm glad you're succeeding on the job and you were able to overcome some of these shocks that you experienced. I'm sure they made you a better person. So we're going over to Ourelula Shamola. She's a respected voice in gender inclusive digital empowerment. Now, Ourelula, what should government and support organizations be doing differently to help the youth move from learning to real employment? It's kind of close to what Damola just said, but then a fresh perspective. What should government and support organizations be doing differently to help youth move from learning to real employment? Ourelula.
All right. Thank you so much, Mede, and thank you to my co-panelists. And thank you for the invitation. It's been great listening to everyone's different perspectives. So addressing the question, government and support organizations, so I would categorize support organizations as organizations, nonprofits, maybe incubators, hubs, who have a training component, and also institutions of learning because they're also supporting in the goal of achieving a productive digital workforce. So I think that it's very important to start with the end in mind. And what is the end? I mean, ultimately, we want to have people who are able to productively contribute to the digital economy and to the economy at large. That means that they need to have solid technical as well as interpersonal skills, what are generally termed as soft skills, which are really important. And so I think Nigeria, we tend to have a lot of huge focus on education. Degrees are very important. But then we know that out in the workplace, it's not all about education. It's not all about the degree that you have or maybe the paper qualifications you have. Those things are important, yes, but they're really a starting point. And they are used largely by employers to sift out when they are recruiting and trying to fill out positions. In other countries, we have some of the big top tech companies have even phased out the requirements for undergrad degrees. They want to know what is it that you can do. So it's very important that we make sure that our educational institutions, our support organizations that are involved in training and workforce development are really clued in on what the industry needs. And what does the industry need? Of course, if we're talking about digital workforce, technology skills, and there's a wide range of technology skills. Very often we start and end with programming and software development. But I think, like Blessing mentioned, in her contribution, it goes way beyond that. Yes, you have the coders, you have the software developers and engineers, but then you have a whole range of other roles. So I think it's important to identify what are the roles, so when we think about, jobs of the future, what are the roles that companies are going to be hiring for that they need, that really fill in that gap of where our world is now and where our world is going to? What are the in-demand skills right now, the next 6 months, the next 5 years? With tech evolving so fast, it's really hard to predict and say these are the precise skills. But some of the skills that have been identified by the World Economic Forum's, their Future of Work report, which comes out each year. Yes, they have the technical skills, data analysis, cybersecurity, AI, cloud computing, but more importantly, they identify skills like critical thinking, creativity, reasoning. Those are very important. So I would say that number one, governments and support organizations need to be clear about what are the problems that are going to be solved? What are the skills that are going to be needed? Not now, but tomorrow. And then work together. That collaboration is really, really important. It's important to make sure that support organizations are receiving support from the government. And for instance, that could be in terms of policy. A policy framework is very important. Some people say things like the government has no business in training. They should support organizations that are doing that. And we know that the government has had several initiatives with varying degrees of success. Some of them have been very successful. But then what happens is when one administration goes out, another administration comes in, then there's a disconnect, and usually there's a winding down of that initiative. And I can think of several, some of which, my organization, WTech, has been involved in training, having good outcomes, training young people. The young people come out with skills, then that administration leaves, and then that's basically the end of that. So number one, important to have, a policy framework that emphasizes the importance of ongoing supports and workforce development. So no matter, who the president is, who is in power, that policy is there already. And so support organizations can tap into that. Then I think also industry exposure as well. So as young people are being trained, whether it's in universities, whether it's in training schools, private training organizations, non-profit organizations, they have the opportunity to go out into the workplace and work. There's been so many initiatives, but I can think of one of our fantastic staff came to us through the Sherpie program, which was launched maybe like about 10 years ago now, where young people who had certain skills were placed in organizations, and then the government paid a stipend for them. So that way, the young people were able to get the training, and the organizations were able to absorb them without that additional financial cost. So really, we need to be looking at industry exposure for young people who are being trained. We need to look at training, but beyond training, we need to look at mentorship as well. We need to look at research. How can governments and support organizations collaborate in measuring the landscape? Where are we in terms of the numbers of young people we have who have the skills that are needed? Evaluation. How are we progressing? Are we able to track the growth of our market-ready young people over a period of time? So we need to have a, I would say, sectoral approach to this. So I think those are some of the ways that government and support organizations can work to make sure that we have a vibrant and skilled workforce who can serve the digital ecosystem.
Thank you very, very much, Ourelula. Thank you so much for such a great insight. Ivy will be coming back to you, and I'll ask this question. What is the hardest part about turning training into actual employment for youth, and how is iAcademy tackling it? But before you answer that question, let me just read one of our ground rules again. To ask a question, kindly type into the Q&A section of the Zoom platform. So you just look at the bottom, you'll see Q&A, type in your question there, just tell us your name, where you're typing from, and ask your question. I'm sure there's a lot we're learning and a lot of things we are ready to unpack and to clarify. So you go to the Q&A section and just type in whatever question it is you have. And so Ivy, back to your question, what is the hardest part about turning training into actual employment for youth, and how is the iAcademy tackling this challenge?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Amadi, and thank you to my co-panelists, right? This is a major challenge, right? So the perception most times about people that are just graduating from a tech academy is that they don't have experience. And also, which is true, they don't have experience. And also, most organizations want fully baked, experienced hires to come in because, of course, they have ongoing projects. So, it's very fast paced in Nigeria. There's no time to say, I want to start training, a young, inexperienced, hire to come on your projects. And so usually in Nigeria right now, that's exactly what we face. Not just health technologies with the graduates that we train, but also other, training outfits as well. So placement is very, very difficult for us to achieve. But what health technology is doing is some of the people that we've trained, right? They also go through an assessment, before we even bring them in. So we do have some of our graduates, from different cohorts who are actually absorbed into our own ongoing projects, implementation projects. But we can't take all of them in, right? So, we try at the back end to also try to place them in other organizations. Presently, from our last cohort, we have placed about 22 graduates in different organizations, right? We just partner with these organizations to be able to place them there. It's a job that we continuously do, just engaging, partnering, showcasing what our people have been trained in, and then just pushing them out there. And, when one or two organizations, say that they want them, then they take them on. And then we also, do what is called we track their performance within those organizations, just so that, we are able to, push more trainings in there. But another thing that we've also decided to do, because every year when we take on any training, we the next time we're doing a training, all the feedback from the previous training is plowed back into the new training, and we are continuously improving. So another thing that we've done as well is, even though they're graduates and they just got a training, of training, we are also building capabilities within our training. So we expanded our curriculum to include hands-on training. So it's not just the theoretical training that you're getting on our platform. You have access to labs. You have access to experienced experts who now take them through the hands-on training. So they're actually getting their hands dirty. They're having experiences, with, what happens on the cloud, what happens with cybersecurity, how do you, stop a fraud from coming in? They're getting that hands-on training as well. And then another thing that we do is exposure. Exposure is very, very important. Ore mentioned that when she was speaking. So we don't just keep them to ourselves. We're exposing them to different networks, right? Different, OEMs, different companies. Let's go in there. We've partnered with Rack Center. We've partnered with Main One to push them there. Let them go and see how a cloud, infrastructure, really, really works, how it runs, So this is the kind of interventions that we're giving. So by the time they're going into the workspace, they're not just going in green. They have actually been exposed to, to building their skills, while they're also taking the trainings. So this is how we're tackling it with our academy, and we also, just expect that that other tech organizations, would have the opportunity, to push the trainees into internship programs within, different organizations. It's a tough one, but we just keep on pushing it. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Thank you very, very much. Oh, wow. Okay. Our time is ticking, but it's exciting. It's interesting. We're gleaning a lot, and I can see a lot of questions are coming. Keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming in the Q&A section. We'll soon go to the Q&A. Let me go to Ourelula. We've heard words like built to last, and everybody that thinks of work, business, programs, activities, initiatives looks forward to having them last. However, we have realized that in our climb, in our communities, in Nigeria in particular, in Africa, a lot of initiatives, a lot of programs, a lot of startups do not last. So the question, what will it take to build models that actually scale and serve Nigeria's workforce in the long run? What will it take to build models that actually scale and serve Nigeria's workforce in the long run? So their stories are not the usual, it started, stopped, it started, stopped. So, Ourelula.
All right, thank you, Mede. So I think that, first of all, we need to define what our goals are. The goals, it's always your starting point, and it's different. So if we're looking at maybe a government initiative, usually their scope is large. They want to train a lot of people. I was involved with the Code Lagos initiative that's had the goal to train 1 million Lagosians in coding. Usually because government has that scale, they have the resources, they can afford to do that. And organizations, or maybe nonprofits, may have a more modest goal and say, you know what, Each year, I want to reach 100 young people or even 50 young people, depending on what their resources are and depending on what their own area of interest is. So I think scale really varies. A lot of times when we talk about scale, we always imagine like thousands, millions, billions, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So, but when you are looking at, you've identified what your own particular goal is. Sustainability is very, very, very key. And I think a lot of times when we think about sustainability, the first thing we think about is funding, money to run it over the long run. And yes, that's important, but that's just a part of it. What I've realized is that partnership is key, and ensuring that the community that you are serving has a sense of ownership of this project is even more important. I'll give you an example with one of the programs that my organization runs, which is an after-school club. We started the first after-school club, funded it, we got funding from somewhere. But then that was the first year. Then the second year came and we had to think about, how are we going to keep funding this? We now had a member of the community who had observed the work that we were doing and said, you know what, I really like this work and I think it's very important. You are actually equipping young people in secondary school with skills. I would like to support this program. In fact, I would like to expand this program. I would like to bring this program to my community. And that was a community that we were not working in. So with that partnership, we were able to expand. And really, the partner took ownership of it. They felt it was theirs. So apart from providing the initial funding that was needed, they also marshaled other people in the community to support this program. And I think that is key, ensuring that people feel that they are part of it, that this is for us. We have a stake in it. That's really key. So that when the initial funding runs out, you still have a way to run it. The sustainability may not always be about funding. It could also be just about the local buy-in. And even beyond funding, you will have people who would step up and volunteer and say, you know what, I'm going to help facilitate. I'm going to provide mentorship. I'm going to provide work placement. And I think so that is really, really key. When we are also looking at the work that we're doing in terms of fostering a healthy digital ecosystem and young people who are ready to work and able to contribute to this, policy, we can't really get away from policy. It's really important. I think it underpins what we do. It gives us the skeleton or the framework within which to work. So last week, I was part of this initiative called the Women's Economic Empowerment Policy, which was established in 2023 in Nigeria. And over the last year, there's been the process of trying to domesticate it in Lagos State. And one thing I really liked is that the ministry in charge of it, which was the Ministry of Women's Affairs, got stakeholders involved, asked them, what does women's empowerment mean to you? What does success look like? For a woman to be empowered. Of course, having digital skills was part of that. So we all had an input into this, the design of this policy. And then when it was launched, we saw that the policy had identified certain key areas that were important to support, including digital skills for women and for young people. So we also need to be engaged in making sure that, number one, there's the right policy that provides an enabling environment for a thriving digital ecosystem, but more importantly, making sure that it's enforced, because a lot of times we may find that we do have a policy, but we need to be aware of it and then also enforce it as well. So I would say that, those are some of the ways addressing, funding, but really making sure that the community, whether that's a country, the states, a town, a locality, or just the subsection of young people, feel that, this is for them. They have a stake in it, and they can also help to support it in the long run.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ourelula. And so, Damola, back to you. What barriers, personal or systemic, did you face when trying to land your first tech job, and how did you push through? What barriers, personal or systemic, did you face when trying to land your first tech job, and how did you push through? Let's have your take on Damola.
Yeah, okay. The barriers I faced, yeah, the barriers I faced was primarily, let me call it lack of access to the right network, because the tech ecosystem functions well on network. I mean, network of people who can actually recommend, and because they followed your growth, how you've been learning over the years, and they can recommend you for the right stuff, for the right opportunity. But initially, I wasn't having that, and I will still go back to say I'm still going to appreciate what our academia and ESTEC did for me in providing that, because without that support, that mentorship, those classes we had on soft skills, it would have been difficult for me to break that barrier. How we're able to leverage social media tools and reach out to people and let them understand, oh, this is what I can do, this is what I've done, and so many things like that. So also unrealistic entry level requirement. That's another barrier I've noticed. It's now looking more like you need experience to even get an entry level role. Entry level role, you are asked to provide 3 years of experience. But you said in the requirement is entry level, and you still want the person to have 2 or 3 years of experience, which I think is not so realistic. Another thing was personally, I needed to now work on my roadmap, because after being trained as a front end developer, I needed to work on my roadmap. At some point, I was more like it was looking more like I was rigid with my career path. I wanted to actually do the front end. Oh, if I've been trained to do front end, then if it's not front end, then nothing. So I think that was personal from my end, but over time I had to be flexible and say no. The, the point is that I transitioned from a field, chemistry precisely, into tech. So the goal is tech, not necessarily to be rigid with a particular line. So that's personal, and I also see this in young people like me. Once they want to do something, we are just so rigid. Oh, if it's not this, it's not that. Not considering other options which are also marketable in the industry. So another one is the limited real world practice environments, because it's also a barrier, because when people don't have a place where they can practice what they have learned, like in the real world, they will not. It will be a barrier for them to even beat the interview. When the interviewer is asking, "What have you done before with what you've learned?" There will be no proof, or let me say little or no proof to show that they've actually learned that, because they've not been able to tackle real life situation. And also, there's also the barrier of information gap. Right. Initially, I wasn't having the kind of information I have now, knowledge and understanding I have now. I wasn't having it as I did. I was just being restricted to development. It was later. I'm currently working with S technologies. I'm now seeing technology is actually wider than just coding. At some point, I thought it was just code. You do data analysis, you do cyber security, okay, maybe digital marketing. Now I'm now seeing other fields that are very, very even much more valuable than some of these things I was focused on. So this barrier, they can be personal and also systematic based on the society. But what I would just advise, especially for young people like me, like I said earlier, is that they should not be rigid, open-minded, and be focused on the goal. The goal is for you to have a successful career, and just flow with it and learn across as you are going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Damola. From chemistry to tech, that is fascinating. I'm really impressed. I'm excited to hear that. And entering into the tech verse, it's not easy. And so, Blessing, back to you. Do you feel the curriculum and training models are aligned with real workplace demands? Do you feel the curriculum and training models are aligned with real workplace demands? Now, borrowing a leaf from what Damola just said, how would you respond to this? Now, if not, what needs to change? Balancing curriculum, classroom, and real work. What needs to change?
I do think that different training programs have different approaches across the world, actually. And when I was in Morocco earlier this year, they had a specific program that was geared towards giving you specific projects to work on to better improve your experience. So you learned by doing, and you could sort of quote some of those things, those projects you worked on as part of your experience, which ties back to what Ivy was saying about people looking for baked talent. So different strategies. Some people have a good combination of theory and practicals, but to be honest, the curriculum, and this is the thing I love about tech, is constantly evolving. And as new technologies are coming up, new discoveries are coming up, the gap between what technology used to be before and what it is now, constantly shifting, constantly changing. But the basics are still, the foundations are still the same. So if you have a good understanding of the concepts, the foundations, you can then catch up as long as you're the type of person who opens themselves up to learning. One of the things I would admonish people to do is that learning doesn't stop at what your teacher teaches you. Learning doesn't stop at what the curriculum teaches you. So there is a place for you to also work, and true learning is not complete until you have practiced. One of the challenges I see is that most people, not most people, but a lot of people would study, they would learn everything that they've been taught, and they will go home and sleep. But when we were working at, when we were doing the Aggressive for Good work, one of the things that I really, really loved was the difference between people you could see putting in the extra hours and practicing versus those who weren't. There was a lady who was building within the data science space, and she, of course, a lot of the people that we targeted were people who had financial needs. So some of them wouldn't have laptops or the tools that they needed to get the work done. But and this, I don't know if Ivy faces this as well. You first think that everybody that the problem is access to information. Then you get the information, then you get the training, then you see, oh my God, no, it's access to tools. And then you get the tools and it's access to power. And so it just keeps compounding and it looks like the problem is not stopping. However, one thing that I taught them at the time was use what you have to get to where you want to go. Start where you are with what you have to get to the next level. So this specific lady didn't have a laptop, but she used the phone to learn and practice some of the things that she was doing. Sometimes she would go to a cyber cafe or borrow a laptop from a friend and just really wanted to do better at data. So one day they were arguing about Real Housewives of Lagos, which was very random, by the way. And she was like, wait, why am I arguing without data? I am supposed to be a data babe. So she went ahead and she scraped the internet, leveraged the skills that she had learned to make a better point for her argument. And she found out that she was wrong. But guess what happened to her? Her data that she created, the visualization she created went viral, absolutely viral. And instead of looking for jobs, jobs started to look for her. So my thing is you can wait for the jobs to come to you, but you can also create the doors. Like if you're not invited to the table, then build your own table and start to encourage people to come closer to you. So of course the curriculum will forever be changing, but you have to embrace lifelong learning to truly make a difference. I do agree with Damola that access is really a big problem. And one of the things that pushed us to start Aggressive for Good was to democratize that access, to ensure that more people had access to the opportunities, the learning resources that they needed. But you're not going to get everything from your training organization, and don't expect to get everything from your training organization. Push yourself to do the work. If you are not getting projects, create projects for yourself. Challenge yourself, 30 days challenges, 100 days challenges, share your work. I mean, I'm a branding and communications person. I would be doing you a disservice if I do not tell you that one of the ways to create opportunities for yourself is to be visible where it matters. And that doesn't necessarily mean social media. That could just be being visible in communities that you're part of. If you're part of developer communities, be visible there. If there's spaces if there are things you're really good at, let people see the work that you can do. Because a lot of times, some of the hiring doesn't happen officially. They reach out to a couple of people and they say, oh, hi, Do you have a very good digital marketer? And if you're not top of mind, I would not remember you. But how then do you become top of mind? By being visible in the spaces where I can see you, not just being visible, but being visible about your work. Because somebody's going to ask me, why should I hire this person? But if you're not visible about your work, I don't have any evidence-based answer to say this is why this person is good. So you need to be able to share your work. Use LinkedIn, put it out there. You don't even have to share your personal life. Nobody needs that. Just share your work, share the things that you're good at, and you could definitely see the difference as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Blessing. That's rich. That's deep. That's very interesting nugget. So you see, the conversations we're having today should be paid for, like Harvard. We're having a Harvard masterclass here for free, brought to you by Hess Technologies. So we'll take 3 questions from the Q&A, and then we'll come back to the action and vision point where our panelists will just give us short responses to round up, So we'll just quickly take about 3 questions from the Q&A. Our panelists, please take note. I'll just read out these questions, 3 questions, and we'll deal with them, and then we'll come back as we round up. The first question here, Ivy, you will deal with this. You will deal with this. Somebody is asking a question that's more of an integrity question, and I know at Hess Technology, we're people of integrity. So he's saying he's Ezekiel. He has applied for the Hess program. He said around February, he didn't qualify. He has applied for many Hess opportunities, but he's always denied. And he's saying, oh, are we giving preferential treatment? And in the course of today's presentation, we talked about breaking barriers and then going beyond, creating opportunities beyond preferential, beyond the privileged. So
Yes.
Kehinde wants to know, is there some kind of preferential treatment? Take note of that, Ivy. That is your question. And then I have another question here from Emmanuel. He said, I'm Emmanuel, chatting from Lagos. In rapidly changing fields like AI and cloud computing, how can we ensure Nigerian youths develop adaptable digital skills rather than training for roles that may soon become obsolete? So, who will take that response? How, in rapidly changing fields like AI and cloud computing, how can we ensure Nigerian youths develop adaptable digital skills rather than training roles that may soon become adaptable?
I'll take that
They soon
one.
become obsolete, I mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
happy
is.
to take that one. I think that, like I said earlier, there's some things that are foundational. So, for example, if you know how to code, like the basics of coding, when a new thing comes up, you can leverage the basis that you have to do a better job, right? So, for example, think about when back in the day, I don't know if you were born then, a lot of secretaries knew how to use the typewriter, right? It was the same QWERTY keyboard. And if you were speedy at using the typewriter, when computers came, you could have easily adapted and be speedy at using the computers as well. So don't expect that the foundational things that you're learning are going to be useless. They wouldn't be. They will come in very, very handy. And it could be the thing that makes a difference between somebody who has that basic skill compared to somebody who is just learning at the surface level. So don't discount it. The second thing I would say, and this part is really important, is find representation. Find people who are doing the things that you want to do within Nigeria and outside, and then start to ask yourself, this thing that I want to do, what is the context in which I would apply it in Nigeria? What is a way that I could make a difference within my environment? How can I use this to make it better? Something like that. If you're following the right people, if you're subscribing to the right newsletters, if you're part of the right communities, after everything they've taught you, you are still going to get all these new insights like, oh my God, what is agents? What are agents rather? And how do they work? How are people using agents to make AI better? You can start to also think about things like if AI is getting so important, it means that more and more data is becoming important, and cybersecurity might also be important as well. So how can I leverage my skills to make a difference? Those kind of things. It's really about how you think. And I think this part is the most important thing you need to hear if you don't remember anything. Your tools are not going to work for you if you
Mm.
don't know how to use them, right? I was looking at my laptop recently and I realized that there were so many things my function key could do that I did not know. I've used my phone and the camera app, and I've seen some other people use their camera app, and I'm asking myself, is it the same camera app? Because we both have the tool, but we're using it differently based on the extent of our information. So your tool is not going to change your life on its own. You need to be armed with the information to know how to unlock that tool to make the best use of it. So ask yourself, with the information that I have, with the training that I have as a foundation, what extras do I need? What quality questions do I need to be asking myself to better improve or to see things differently or to gain a new perspective? I think that way you will never be obsolete, especially if you embrace lifelong learning and you're consistently figuring out how to fill in gaps as opposed to, oh my God, I'm panicking. AI is going to take my life. No, it's not going to do that. Your perspective is the most important thing that you bring to the table. And that's why I know that AI will not replace you as long as you embrace lifelong learning.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Blessing. I would allow Ivy respond to the preferential question. And
Yes.
after that, I would take a question from Douglas and I'll throw that to Ourelula, and then we'll see how we proceed from there. So, Ivy, please respond to our friend who was asking that he has tried and he has tried and he has tried again. I would say keep trying, but Ivy, what would you say?
Say keep trying, but I mean, it is good for me to respond to Ezekiel. I think that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Ezekiel, yes. So Ezekiel, first of all, we offer free trainings. There's no preferential treatment here. What happens is that I'll give you a typical example. In the last training application drive that we had over 3,000 applications. The one before that, over 3,000 applications. The one before, over 5,000 applications. And how do you see pre-applications? We have a structured process for that, right? We don't even handle it ourselves, to be honest. It is outsourced because it's important that it's transparent, right? Now, what happens is that you have to take assessments. And so it's highly competitive. When they say that Nigerians are the most intelligent people in the world, I tell you, Nigerians are. So it's highly competitive. So when you are coming to apply for our programs, you have to be the best among the best. So the scores are very high, and that's exactly what happened. But let me just give you an advice, right? Don't give up. So I don't know if you ever get to watch America's Got Talent, British Got Talent, and all those shows, right? Because I learned from a lot of things, and I've been following those shows from the time they started, right? America's Got Talent for I think this is like the 12th or 13th year, and everything. There's one particular, not just one person, but there are people who would come to audition again, and they would say, oh, I was here in your first season, but you didn't take me. And then Simon Cowell will ask them, so what have you done, between that time and now? And they would say that, oh, I've gone to work on myself. I took the feedback. I went and I worked on myself. I've improved this. I took more trainings. And all that. And when they come back, they're successful, right? They get into, they actually scale that audition process. So my charge to you is, please don't give up, right? Go back to the drawing board. You take assessment. So you know that I need to take this assessment and I need to score at least 100%. So that means I'm putting in my best my best into taking those assessments, and then you will actually be you'll be successful. So who knows, your next program, you try again, and if you have worked on yourself, if you have you've gone to brush up, you definitely would have an opportunity. But remember, it's not just you. We open it to the entire Nigeria and even outside Nigeria. I mean, I don't know if you were listening to my presentation, and I said we've actually impacted 26 states right now in the country where we have high academy, graduates. We don't even know these people until they come into the program, right? So I really wish you the best in the next application drive, right? So go back and brush up.
I was going to say, please, can I add to that? When I was running, like when we ran the nonprofit and we trained 130,000 people, we definitely got over 900,000, like we got thousands of applications. And this is something that people definitely still accused us of. Is like, oh, you're preferring Nigerians, you're doing this, you're doing that. But one of the things we noticed when we would go back and look at the application drive is that first, a lot of people don't put in. So the difference between the person that is chosen and the person that is not chosen is very little. And sometimes it could be as little as how much effort you put into writing and sharing your story. You have context about why you want to register for this for this training. We don't. But we asked you, why would you want this training? And you said to learn, to improve my skill. And you gave me like 2 words. Meanwhile, another lady said, this is my story. This is where I started from. This is this. And we have context about how exactly it's going to improve her life. So maybe ask yourself, who are some people that have gotten through the program? So as opposed to feeling sorry for yourself, blaming everybody else, saying that this is why it's not working. Sorry, me, I can say it because like I'm not in I Academy, but it's something that I have seen happen, right? And you can blame everybody, or you can focus on, I really want to get this opportunity. So what are the things I need to do to ensure that I get this opportunity? Who are people who have gotten this opportunity? If Damola is one of the people who have gotten this opportunity, write Damola on LinkedIn and ask him, please, can you guide me on the application process? Is there something you think I missed? How can I be better prepared for the next application drive? And that could really be what makes the difference between now and later. Stop blaming the world. Really ask yourself, I need to create my own opportunities. And I don't care what favoritism people are doing or whatever, which I know they're not doing. The opportunities are just limited. But how do I ensure that I am the one who is highly favored? I hope that helps you figure out your next application drive.
Brilliant,
Thank
brilliant,
you. Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Blessing.
brilliant. So this question I'll ask Ourelula, and then we'll go and take our closing remarks. So he says, my name is Douglas Scott Hosfall from Port Harcourt. I deliberately wanted to take this, so we go outside Lagos. Hosfall from Port Harcourt. My question is that I'm a digital marketer with an idea to revolutionize the real estate segment through e-commerce integration. Are there any innovation hubs or organizations that can support mentorship and partner with me to bring this concept to life?
Okay. So, I mean, there definitely are. I think that if he checks out the innovation, I think support network, ISN, they are a collective of hubs, incubators, accelerators, across the country. So I think you could check that out. But I mean, I wonder if he's done anything with his idea, whether he's actually started to build something. What I realize is that it's more powerful to get partners, to get support when you actually have a minimum viable product to show, something, no matter how simple it is. So I think that he should start building, or he or she should start building if they haven't done that already. And then look into the ISN. But then all you have to do is just go online and just type up, Google is your friend, as they say, incubator hub near me, in Port Harcourt. You'll definitely find something. There's one that I'm part of, the Founder Institute, and they're amazing. They take, people with ideas. So they don't always have to have an MVP. They could have an idea and they want to bring it to life. And they really put them through the works, questioning it, finding out what your market is, your market size, the value, the significance, the demand, the need. And then through the process, they weed out people whose ideas don't really hold up. So I would say, look for the information. The information is out there online, and start to build something. When you start to build, and hopefully you're part of communities, either developer communities or other tech, communities, and you start to share a bit, you'll start to find partners, but you need to take that first step.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ourelula. And so we're going to step into our panelists, rounding up with 30, 60 seconds responses to these questions. We're talking about action and vision now. And so I'll go back to Ourelula. If we had to, just in 60 seconds, 30, 60 seconds, just 1, 2, 3 sentences, if we had to reimagine talent development from scratch, what is the one policy, partnership, or model you will start with? If we had to reimagine talent development from scratch, what is that one policy, partnership, or model you will start with or you will recommend?
Well, it would be a multi-pronged approach that combines education.
Yes.
That's a trend we've all been talking about. Employment. So finding opportunities for people who have been trained to practice, to gain practical skills. Equity is very important. A lot of hiring managers hire who maybe they are comfortable with. And I have to say this as a woman in this space, where women are underrepresented. So with an eye to equity, whether that's gender or even disabilities, culture, religion, and also employer demand, industry demand, making sure that what people are being trained in are things which are important, both technical as well as interpersonal and soft skills.
Brilliant, brilliant. So Blessing, looking at your vision for 2030, what role should private companies play beyond just hiring in building Nigeria's tech workforce? Right?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me this question, but you said beyond hiring, but I do think that it is hiring because I know, like Ivy and Aurelua said, everybody is looking for already made talent. Everybody is looking for already baked talent and things like that. But they forget that those big talent were once entry-level talent that someone else had to train and had to, like, you are asking for 8 years experience, but if you don't give these people with potential an opportunity, you're never going to get that 8 years experience in 8 years because they would have been out of the job and your senior people would have been away. So the thing in my head is, if there could be a program or a way that people created internship opportunities, you could see this with brands like Amazon, Google. They always have this internship opportunities that are open to MBA students, students in general, and just programs, things like that. Even if you're not hiring, create programs that are like not training programs, but I don't know what they're called, but still internship programs for a short period of time where people can gain experience, where they can see what it's like to work within specific organizations. And if you're not, and I do understand that, bringing in a staff is not cheap and it's expensive, it costs something, but you could also create mentorship programs or exchange programs where your staff can contribute towards the development of a newbie. So it could be like an adopt an intern or adopt a newbie initiative where every year you take a number of people, and I think this is even useful during programs like IWD. So as opposed to just International Women's Day posting a woman doing the sign that's the sign of the year, how about you adopt a couple of women to be trained and mentored or work in your organization for 6 weeks, and then that could be their work experience and could totally change their lives. So yeah, open your doors more.
Excellent. Open your doors more. Lovely, lovely. This program is being recorded, right? This is a master class. Like it's a master class like no other. I've personally learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to scale up, and scale up. So if you fail to scale up, you're going to scale out. So Ivy, if you could partner with 100 companies right now, I'm not talking about tomorrow. Let's even say right now, if you are to partner with 100 companies, what kind of support will you ask to deepen impact and scale the I Academy? It's like taking iAcademy to the next level.
Next level. It's so amazing, I tell you. One important area, one of my asks would be the internship, opportunities. Blessing had mentioned that, and Ori had mentioned that's very important. So more internship opportunities, because within different industries, right, the learning is different, and that's, I mean, when you're building your career, you don't want to just stay in one industry for 10 years. I mean, some people are like that. You want to try different industries because you get more experience and lots of knowledge. So I think that, internship opportunities would be really amazing. And, of course, just support with the stipends, because of course the youth will be coming that way. The second is also and this is what Damola had mentioned, where he talked about the expectations of an entry level, hire, right? Let that expectation be realistic, because really, how much do they know, right? And, they need that opportunity to actually come in and, be psychologically, safe, that they're learning and also growing at the same time. And then, of course, sponsorship as well. It would be wonderful to have partners who would say, okay, you know what, let's sponsor you to train 10 people here, 100 people here in this particular area, because we need it. Even organizations can come to us and say, please, can you train, these people, in cybersecurity or in cloud or in this area? And that would be great, because we really can't do it alone, right? Yes, and then the final ask is also on the gender equality. Gender, opportunities need to be open. Why? Because having worked, with women and brought in the women into our, trainings, I mean, the women are amazing. It's amazing what they do, what they know, how they bring a different perspective towards, development, towards, just, the job, as we go along. So I think that's really important. We need to have more females in the space. Organizations need to intentionally, reach out and ask for more ladies to actually come into, into their spaces. Yes. And then finally, job branding opportunities, for visibility, because a lot of people need to see what we're doing together, right? And it also speaks to the collaboration narrative that we're trying to showcase to the world, that collaboration is really what takes you further. So more organizations need to actually, when you partner with us, let's just have a joint branding, a strategy, so that we can go further, and get our efforts visible. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ivy. Thank you so much for those nuggets. Damola, for young Nigerians trying to break into tech, especially those with little money or access, what is your honest piece of advice for these ones?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that question. I think that question is personal. I actually take it personal, because at some point I was at that position and I needed to also make that call. I think the first thing here will be clarity, because I just want to quickly share this experience I had, because coming from a chemistry background, I had the opportunity to work with the second largest producer of dairy product in Nigeria. So during my IT, that's my industrial training while in school. So I noticed, I just look at my experience from the class and the lab, and I was trying to put it together and say, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this something I like? Is this something I'll be proud of doing maybe when I'm 70 years and I look back and say, oh, I'm proud to have done this with myself? So there needs to be that clarity, so that direction of what that person wants to actually do. Because a lot of people think, they say tech is the new oil. Tech is the new oil. So everybody just, some persons, let me not say everyone, some persons just think because it's the new oil, I just need to pick up a laptop, then in 6 months I start making the millions. No, there needs to be clarity. And that's why sometimes people learn a skill and they run back, because it's not what they thought it was. So there needs to be clarity. You need to be clear of what you want to learn. Oh, I want to go into this tech. I want to build a career in tech. And secondly, you need to have that willingness to learn, because I've seen cases where people were personally will ask me, oh, I need to learn this, and I pay for courses for them. It's okay. Like, let me give you access to this course. Take it. Let me see. And they are not learning. And I track and I see that, oh, this person just wanted to. This person is actually interested in tech for the money, but the willingness to actually drive and push himself or herself to learn this is not there. So that willingness, after having that clarity of career path, then the willingness to learn should be there also. And I suggest the person also joins a community, like Blessing said earlier. Join a community and be noticed. Do valuable work, contribute to that community. And also, I would like to also share this because it was something it was a strategy I leveraged and it really helped me. And after school, I just thought, okay, I needed to just do this apprenticeship myself. I needed to volunteer for a company, even if I was not going to be paid. And I called one of the then, it was now the current largest dairy product company in Nigeria. I spoke with the production manager and I asked him, oh, I'm done with school. I would like to do this before my NYSC. He said, oh, there's no program for that in the organization. I said, no. And I know there may not be a program for that. I'm willing to do it even if you guys are not going to pay me. And he was stunned. You mean you want to work for free? I said, yes, because I'm more interested in the experience I'm going to get, not just the money now, because at the early stage of my career, I needed to just learn some things and prepare well for my career. And I was given the opportunity, spoke with the lab supervisor, it got to the GM, and eventually I was asked to resume. So that so young people like me should also be open to such, not just because without that enabling environment, you will not be able to really learn properly. I mean, hands-on and what is needed in the industry. So start with what you have. After that, start with what you have. If you have a phone, YouTube is always there. Like I tell people, YouTube is the biggest repository to learn anything. Everything and anything that you can learn today is on YouTube. So you can start to where you are, share your progress, build your pipe, build your value, build the network around you, and let people see that you are actually contributing value in this path that you have chosen. So it's doable. It's something I've tried and it's worked, and that is what I'm actually doing at the moment. So it's doable. To the young people out there, thumbs up to you. You can do it. There are people who have done it, who have transitioned from different field to tech, and they're successful. So put in the work, and the sky is the starting point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damola. Thank you so much for that. Our time is fast spent. We honestly wish we could take every question, but I ran through the questions and I realized that a whole lot of questions that have been asked, somehow the answers have been provided in the presentations and the questions in responses to other questions. However, for those of you whose questions were not attended to, please don't feel bad. We will find a way to respond to these questions or find a way for you to reach across to us as we round up. We'll share an email address. If you have those concerns, you can still share. And if the panelists they can respond to some questions just in those Q&A sections quickly and just reach out to you. We thank you for your participation. Thank you so much to our incredible speakers, Ivy, Blessing, Ourelula, and Damola, for sharing such honest, practical, and inspiring insights with us today. Their responses was from a place of personal experience, an experiential perspective, something they've experienced, something they've touched, something they've seen. So it's not just theoretical, it is practical. And to our audience, thank you for being part of this conversation. It is clear that preparing Nigeria's youth for the future of work is not something that one organization can do alone. It requires partnership, it requires shared responsibility, and it requires action, not later, but now. Like the future is now, the action is now. And so at Hess Technologies, we believe in building Africa's digital future by investing in its people through platforms like the iAcademy and our talent management outsourcing solutions, that's the TMO. We are helping organizations find and grow the digital talent that they need while helping young people unlock the opportunities they deserve. If you're an employer looking for skilled, job-ready talent, or a partner looking to co-create impactful training, or simply someone who wants to stay involved, please visit www www.hestechnologies.com. I'll take that again, www.hestechnologies.com, or you can email us directly at support@hestechnologies.com. Email us directly at support@hestechnologies.com. And so on behalf of the entire Hest Technologies team, thank you again, and we look forward to connecting with you sometime soon. Do have a great day. Thank you, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.